It's 20 Macs for 2020. I'm Jason Snell, here as always with Stephen Hackett. Stephen, we changed our shirts this time.
We did. I'm wearing my summer fun shirt. It has cactuses all over it.
It's very excellent. Don't go to Arizona
Thank
in
you.
the summer. I don't recommend it.
No, it's hot enough in Tennessee. I'm okay staying here.
We're here to talk about a time, we're going to take you back to a time when Apple had one hot product, the iPod. And it really wanted to use that product to convince people to switch to the Mac. There was the iPod Halo effect. Yeah.
I got a bunch of them over here.
Yeah. Well, the iPod was
now
big.
I'm just distracting everybody.
And the iPod, with pretty iPods. This is not 20 iPods for 2020. Stephen, do that yourself. It's a lot of work. I'm just warning you.
All right, there you go.
The iPod was a hit, and it was a lot of people's first Apple product because the PC was way more popular than the Mac anyway. So it was their first Apple product. And Apple saw this as a great opportunity to bring people into Apple stores, to get people to consider the Apple brand, and we make a computer. But there was this concern that there wasn't enough of a sort of like an available product that was cheap enough to get people to sample the Mac, to try it out. And that was the conception behind I've got it right here, the Mac Mini.
The Mac Mini.
Both got them. Well, they're easy to get because, $499. They were the cheapest. It's literally, this is the cheapest Mac ever made in terms of original Mac sold brand new for retail price in the US. $499, the first one. First one had no Bluetooth unless you paid extra. It had no Wi-Fi unless you paid extra. It had not enough RAM unless you paid extra. It had a tiny hard drive unless you paid extra. So at Macworld, we said, do not get the $499 one. And I spent a year inserting putty knife in the bottom edges of this thing, popping the top off and doing upgrades because they desperately needed upgrades.
Yeah, I've got the original, G4 one, 2005 as the copyright on this one. And what was so cool about this is what wasn't only the price, but I think how the sort of Apple community and Mac community really rallied around it. So when Steve Jobs introduced it, it was hey, you're going to switch from a PC, just put this where your tower was.
The Mac Mini is BYODKM. What does that mean? Right? BYODKM. It means bring your own display, keyboard, and mouse. Okay? We supply the computer, you supply the rest. So you can take Mac Mini and you can hook it up to, let's say, our 20-inch cinema display. Right? And our keyboard and mouse. But the great thing about Mac Mini is you can hook it up to any industry standard display, keyboard, and mouse. A lot of people already have a display and a USB keyboard and mouse.
And you can plug in your display and keyboard and mouse. It's got DVI on the back, so you get a VGA, and it's got USB. And
yeah, VGA adapter was in the box. So
yeah, what a world.
They were really trying hard to get people who had a Dell to switch, and just literally just don't even buy a keyboard, don't buy a mouse, don't get rid of your crappy VGA, CRT, leave it all in place. And just remove that beige computer tower and insert a Mac Mini and delight in it. That was the whole premise of this product.
I always kind of had the vision that someone would buy one of these and just put it on top of their Dell tower and not even bother to get rid of the tower. Just have it on top and the Dell be some sort of base for it.
What happened with the Mac Mini is it turned out the Mac Mini was successful, but not in the way Apple thought. A lot of people switched during this period, but I think the general sense was that more people would just buy a laptop or they'd buy an iMac and they'd get rid of all of their PC stuff. That unless you were somebody who couldn't afford anything more than a $499 Mac, which again was super underpowered, it became pretty clear that the switchers were more interested in just sweeping out all their old PC stuff and getting in Mac stuff. But Mac users really embraced the Mac Mini, and I mentioned that IR port. One of the places that this found hold was in home theater setups attached to TVs, because this was in the day before Apple TV or any other boxes like that. And so you could set up with Front Row, which was the software that was like Apple TV on the Mac, kind of, except not very good at the time. You could set one of these things up at your TV. I don't know if you ever did that. I tried that briefly and it didn't really work.
Yeah, I never did Front Row. on a TV, but I do have still to this day a Mac Mini hooked up to one of the inputs on my television. Sometimes the kids want to do something on the web and have it on the TV, but also have a DVD player a DVD drive hooked up to it. You know, this one had the slot load optical drive. Mine has my name on the bottom of it. This actually was my like high school job, college job. We got one of these as an office server. Had like a big, big for the time, probably 80 gigabyte hard drive, FireWire hard drive off of it, and I ended up adopting the machine. So at some point, I wrote my name on the bottom of it. But yeah, these things have showed up in places that I don't think Apple ever thought in the early days. In fact, later on in the Mac Mini's life, they would have a Mac Mini server that got rid of the optical drive and had 2 hard drives, so you could do servery stuff on it.
Right.
I think that's pretty cool.
This is the case where Apple's users knew more about what to do with this thing than Apple did. And that's great. I mean, and the reason it's still around even now and it's survived all this time is because it's so flexible. Everybody always expects it to get canceled at some point and removed off the price list. But Apple just every 4 years or so does an update. This is the latest one, which is, no more optical drive space. It's a little wider. It's a little bit flatter. And then there's an even more recent one that's the Space Gray version. That's the current modern one, but it's still this shape. And the Space Gray version is right over my shoulder too, in my little server area over here. So I've gone through a lot of these over the years. And, as a server attached to a TV, as a second Mac, an affordable second Mac, if you've already got a Mac, but you want to set up maybe a little workstation for a kid, like they've ended up in so many different places because it can kind of go anywhere. It's relatively affordable, though more expensive than $499. It never stuck at $499. And it's obviously got enough user base for Apple to keep making them. Otherwise, it would be dead now. But Apple just keeps it around and it won't die.
Yeah, I mean, that Space Gray one you mentioned, you can spec one of those up pretty high. Good CPU, a bunch of RAM. It still has the integrated graphics, so it's a little weak on that side. But Apple's clearly still investing in the Mac Mini, and I would expect that with the Apple Silicon transition coming up, that the Mac Mini still has a long life in front of it.
Yeah, sure feels like it. Obviously, the developer transition kit that everybody has used to try out Apple Silicon is itself kind of a Mac Mini. It's in a Mac Mini enclosure. Yeah. So the Mac Mini continues along. And so this is one of these great stories where I think the Mac Mini is relevant and notable, not just because it has survived a long time, although that's part of it, but because it transcended the initial concept of what the Mac Mini was supposed to be. It was such a good idea as a product that it didn't matter that switchers weren't buying it, because Mac users were buying it and loving it. And I bought, I think, 4 over the course of its life. I just keep buying them and using them. And I know people who never touch a Mac Mini, and I know people who love it because they can stick it anywhere. And that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely. Good choice. Good choice.
Thank you. I'm glad I got your seal of approval for this one.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. We'll be back next week with another one. Bye.
Bye.